Hi, and welcome to day 4, I guess it is now. Wow, day 4. Whew. It's day 4 of this Bible study, and I can honestly say Satan's already tempting me. David and I are hooked on The Circle on Netflix. One of our little guilty pleasures, I guess you could say. We have just been watched over and over again. So many episodes. I finally had to say, stop, stop, stop. I've got to get this recorded. I was late yesterday in recording, and I can't be late 2 days in a row. I only have a small cushion of allowance for that. So just to let you all know, one, The Circle is a fantastic show, and two, Satan is working, which means we're doing God's work and we're doing good things. And Satan is hating that we are finding a way to come together in this time. And he's hating that we are digging into God's word and finding the encouragement that we need. So be encouraged. Know that you're on the right path. I don't know if you've been tempted by anything. I'm still trying to find that quiet time. And it's only 4 days. But I know I definitely have been. And God's refocusing me. And don't worry, I'm still going to watch the show. Just I'm going to make sure my devotion gets done first. All right, join me in prayer. God, thank you so much for the little reminders that you give us of truly what is most important in our lives. Thank you for giving us that grace and loving us enough to continue to remind us of your will for us and what you've called us to do. I pray that you'll be with us here tonight as we come together for our devotion. I just pray that wherever we are in our lives right now, whatever we might be doing, that you can just help us to pause what's going on around us and really tune in to what you have for us to learn tonight. All these things in your name. Amen. Okay, so day 4, a do-it-yourself project. How many of us have started those projects and never finished them? And how many of them have done them and they failed horribly, right? Nailed it on Netflix, right? I don't know why I'm on a Netflix plug here, but I feel like that's my life sometimes. I'm setting out to do something really, really great, and it just falls completely flat. Oh, I kind of wonder if that's how Sarah felt when she tried her path here. Ooh. See, if I wasn't binge watching so much, I could probably not yawn through a video. Oh man. Oh, I'm trying to pull up the book on my phone here. Here we go. Okay. So at this point in our story, when Sarah tries her DIY project, or sorry, as I've come to call her before this change in her, she was 75 years old. Can we even begin to wrap our heads around that? 75 years old. And as our author states here, surely her body had given her all the signs that babies were no longer possible. Wasn't a thing for her anymore. She really begins to doubt God. And I'm sure that in that time period before she was 75, she was already doubting. But now she's 75 years old. She really doesn't know what else to do. And she begins to really let her own personal heart's desires get in front of what God's desires are for her. We know in our heads that God's plan is so much better for us than our own individual plan. But it is hard. It is so hard to sometimes follow that with your heart as well. I mean, there was something else I highlighted here that I wanted to make sure I read. She must have been so desperate. Maybe she'd already asked all of her neighbors for all their homemade remedies. Perhaps she visited the local herbalist and picked up every fertility potion available. Maybe she thought, why hasn't God blessed us with a child when he so clearly promised one? It's probably all my fault. I don't know what I've done to deserve God's anger, but there's no reason Abram should suffer for my mistakes. We can't wait forever. If God isn't going to bless me with a child of my own, my little do-it-yourself project with Hagar should work instead. I mean, I don't even know how to begin to understand that she had to wait so incredibly long for God's promise. And I know that feeling of that she's experiencing, that maybe he's angry with me. Maybe I've done something wrong. I don't know what it was, but maybe it's me. Maybe he stopped his plan because of something that I did. And I didn't even intend to focus on this when I first decided to create the PowerPoint. I didn't intend to focus on God's grace and God's love for us, but I feel like that's really what came out here. She does this DIY plan at 89 and still without a child. Maybe God promised Abram a son, but maybe not with her, right? She doesn't even know, she can't grasp the idea of what's happening and why God would make her wait so long. It's this feeling of sadness and a little bit of anger and confusion. She doesn't know what to do. So can you blame her for wanting to try something else? I think I do the same thing. Genesis 17:15 through 16. God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. King of peoples will come from her." Now, before this, at the age of 89, she'd said to herself, like I just said in the last slide. Actually, let me go back. There we go. Maybe God promised Abram a son, but not her. So for the first time in God's promises and reminding them of his promise for them, he actually mentions Sarah by name. For the very first time, he gives her that last dose of encouragement that she needs to keep staying on her path and staying true to who she is and her faith. Love that. I love that. He doesn't give up on her, you know? And God finally revealed to Sarah. I mean, she was waiting for what, at least 50 years? If she's 89 years old, she's been waiting for a child for at least 50 years by this point. I've never waited for anything for 50 years. I'm not even 50, thank goodness. I'm enjoying life right now, right? I can't imagine waiting for anything for like longer than 2-day Amazon free shipping. And Sarah's waited for 50 years. Whew. Sarah was a part of the plan all along. God didn't tell her right away or explicitly mention it until now. Now he tells her, really, Sarah is part of this plan. I promise you, Sarah is part of this plan, and God doesn't break his promises. And there was something else I wanted to share. Oh, so sorry, I was making sure I'm getting everything from my notes. So what came to my mind as I was reading for the very first time, God shares his plan, what really came to my mind was, how can it be? This whole time, I think, if I was putting myself in Sarah's shoes, she's saying to herself, how can this be? How can this even be possible? I don't understand it. I don't get it. How can this be? To the point where she laughs out loud at the idea at this point. She's moved on. She's given up on this idea, and she literally laughs out loud. Genesis 18:12, as we read yesterday. She laughed silently to herself and said, "How could a worn-out woman like me enjoy such pleasure, especially when my master, my husband, is also so old?" She laughs out loud. There's no way, right? How can it be? And God swoops in, as he always does, and is very faithful to her. And she laughs again at the realization that he was faithful to her. The realization that I'm finally letting this happen. I mean, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but you've been praying for something and you start to see these pieces come together and you almost don't want to believe it, and you don't want to admit that it might be happening because you don't want to get your hopes crushed again. I mean, I know that in my circumstances, you almost stop taking like the pregnancy test at that point because you're tired of seeing the negative line. You're tired of seeing that no, what you thought was happening isn't happening. So you almost stop hoping, and give up and you move on. You try your DIY plan because you're tired of the disappointment. And I wonder if that's exactly how she felt. And that's why she laughs. Like, I remember even being pregnant with Clara, like until she was in my arms, it was almost as if you didn't believe it. And I really think that's how Sarah felt. Until her son, she was holding her little baby boy in her hands and nursing him and just cradling him in his arms. I don't know if she could believe it. And Genesis 21:6-7 says she laughs out loud. All who hear this story will laugh. Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse a baby? Yet I've given Abraham a son in his old age. God was faithful. Her doubt really turned to disbelief and joy at that moment. She knew it in her head, but she couldn't allow her heart to believe it. Through all of her doubting, all of her disbelief, her crazy DIY plan, God showed his grace to her and still chose to use her for this great miracle. Even when we're at our worst, and how many times have we done some crazy things, God's still there and is still wanting to use us and to show us his love and his mercy and his grace. Isn't that amazing? He's not just going to throw in the towel and walk away no matter what we do. This is your reminder and my reminder to myself. Is anything too hard for the Lord? That art project, I mean, I feel more inclined than ever to sit down and really think about that. And it's why I liked this call to action. That it's actually one of the activities that she gives, Charlotte Fritz gives in the study guide. And I feel like this really made me think. And instead of doing a question today where we respond, I want to see those art projects in the comments. So I want you to think about this and do this on your own. When Sarah tried her DIY project, she was acting out of self-reliance instead of trust in God's adequacy. She was thinking with her head, or she was thinking with her heart and not with her head. She knew what her heart wanted, and she went out on her own to get what her heart wanted, versus relying on everything that she knew in the past and knew of God's love and grace. So what areas of your life is it super easy to trust God in? And what areas is it really difficult? Take some time to really rate them. Because when you rate them, you know where your strengths and weaknesses are. And you can pray that God will strengthen those areas for you. So once you've ranked them, write that prayer and ask God to help you trust him in those areas. Because we know in our heads that when we can trust God in those areas, a huge burden is lifted and we are free. And it's such a great feeling to know that God's in complete control, and it's so comforting. But our hearts sometimes take that over, and it kind of makes us miserable. Set yourself free tonight. And this song came to mind from Lauren Daigle, but it wasn't the chorus that really rang true with me. It was the bridge. Though I fall, you can make me new. From this death, I will rise with you. Oh, the grace reaching out for me. How can it be? And I just imagine Sarah singing this song as she's holding her newborn baby in her arms. She knew she had fallen, and she knew she wasn't who she wanted to be. And God made her new. And he blessed her with that beautiful little baby boy. I encourage you, during your time of reflection, listen to that song, Google it. I think it'll touch you tonight. And tune in tomorrow for day 5. Is anything too hard for the Lord?